Hey guys, my name is Nabiri and it's time for another Synth Saturday, and today I want to show you how you can properly design a huge lead for a hardstyle melody. So the end result of what we're going to create today is this. Now the leads are still dry, but that's just because of how long this video is. Next week we're going to dive into the reverb and the delay that we're going to put behind this melody. Now I hope you like this melody and the synth, of course. Just drop any comment down below, any questions, if something was unclear, or just show me that you were here. But without further ado, let's start creating this synth. And to start making this lead, we're going to start with the top lead. Just because it has the most character, it's really going to define on what type of lead it's going to be in the end. And today I just feel like using Viper for this top lead. The first thing I want to do is just put the oscillator balance to only one of the oscillators, just because even when I'm making a top lead in silent, I tend to use only one oscillator as well, with only one voice. So we're just gonna stick to this first oscillator and we're gonna start making our top lead with Viper. And I'm gonna play around with these distortions first, because I don't really use Viper for top leads that often, and we just have to figure out which one is gonna work for this top lead in particular. So yeah, I'm just gonna scroll through some of them and we'll see which one we'll choose. I think I'm gonna stick with digital. It's just a more clear type of distortion that doesn't really add that much problems in the high end as well. So I'm just gonna stick with digital, and now I'm just gonna play around a little bit with this band pass to get it to the right tone. Something like this will work, and now we're just gonna add some movement in here, because right now it's just a boring tone that we're listening to. So I'm just gonna use this mod envelope to get some pitching going, and that's gonna create the first bit of movement for our top lead. And like I said, top leads are just the most important and most characteristic part of your lead. They're really gonna define what the rest is gonna sound like. So we're just gonna play around a little bit with this and make it move. You need to be a little bit careful with this mod envelope for the pitching, just because if you make the pitching envelope a little bit too slow with too much decay, it's just not gonna sound that tight. So you might want to play around a little bit with this until you get it to a nice pitching envelope that doesn't sound too extreme. I was playing around and just testing if that key follow worked. But the reason it doesn't really work is because we have these short steps in our MIDI file over here. So over here the filter is going to be down low, and that just doesn't sound that good. So you can use that key follow, but only if you don't really have these really low notes in between there, because that's just gonna make your filter move quite low. A part of that, I feel that we're already creating a nice sound and it has some movement. And yeah, maybe I'm just gonna do some saturation and just a little bit of EQing in here, but I feel we're already creating a nice top lead. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna stick with this as a top lead, and we're just gonna go put it into a mixer track and put an EQ on here to really balance it out, because I'm just preferring Pro Q2 to just really balance my leads. Maybe we want to add a little bit of highs, and of course we want to cut the lows, because we don't really want the lows in our lead. And I feel like this, we already got a nice top lead. We got some nice movement in here, and it's quite characteristic. So that's the things that we really need for our top lead. And right now we're just gonna make some extra lead layers that will back this up. And I feel like using silent to just make a nice hypersaw layer. And let's just copy the melody, of course, and just start making a hypersaw lead to back this up. And the thing I'm already thinking about when I start making this hypersaw lead is how much of detune I want for this particular layer. Because sometimes your top lead just has a little bit less movement, and then sometimes you just want a little bit less detune. But we already got a really moving top lead, and I feel that we can go quite heavy on the detune. But it's just a thing that I'm thinking about before I start making this lead. Just consider for a little moment for yourself how much detune you want this hypersaw to have. thing I really like to do is just playing around a little bit with the voices. And over here we just took 6 because it leaves a little bit more space for other sounds to come through. And on part B, I always like to put the second oscillator 1 octave up, just because that already gives so much more room and air to only this hypersaw. It just sounds a lot bigger, and yeah, it will fit a little bit better with your top lead as well, because it's using another part of the frequency spectrum to fill it up a little bit. A part of that, I just like to put the filters to 12 decibels over here on the cutoff, and yeah, just use the drive a little bit to balance it out, because our second part has that higher oscillator. It's just a little bit in a different frequency spectrum, and you want to use that drive to just balance those part A and part B a little bit. And right now we're just going to use the resonance to maybe give it some more highs, and after that we're going to add some extra movement with an LFO. I feel this is just good enough for a hypersaw lead to back that top lead up. And we're just gonna put this in the mixer channel again, and we're gonna low cut this and just give it some extra highs to just balance it out a little bit. But the EQ will really just look similar to the top lead one. We're just taking some lows out and maybe adding some highs. And right now I just feel like adding some more movement and detail to this little 2-layer lead. I feel like adding pitch bends to the longer notes and just do some small notes as well will just really help create a little bit more of an interesting melody to listen to. And I feel that it just really needs that at this moment. So we're gonna put this one to 12, and the Viper one is already put to 12 over here. So we're just gonna move this, and we're gonna go to last tweaked and link this to controller. So we link this to the same automation clip, and right now we can move 2 knobs with only 1 automation clip. Yeah, I'm just gonna play through this melody and just see which notes I want to have a little bit of a pitch. And just a small tip that you can use for these automation clips as well. Instead of only pulling the end of the note down, you can also just sometimes pull the beginning of the note down. This will just emphasize a little bit more of that pitching envelope that we're using in the synthesizers. And sometimes it's just a nice touch to your melody. Alright, so what we got right now is just a nice and moving lead, and it's only 2 layers, so we still need to add a lot to make this more full. And I feel that we're gonna need some type of backup lead for our top lead right now. And what I mean with that is just, it's not really gonna be an aggressive top lead. It might be just a little bit, but not as normal as a normal top lead. But it's not gonna be a hypersaw that's just playing in the background as well. I'm just gonna open up another silent, and yeah, let's just see if we can make something that just brings out our top lead a little bit more. So I'm just already sticking to another waveform that our top lead is. Our top lead is saw, and I feel like using this dry saw could maybe just be a little bit in the background, but just put everything in its place. Yeah, we're just basically treating this like a normal top lead, but I'm just playing around a little bit more. So I'm just going to use the same settings, or I'm just going to use the same knobs that I'm doing with top leads as well, but I'm just having a little bit of a different goal in the back of my mind. We're just going to put some pitching envelope on here, and of course we're going to play with the LFO again, because otherwise it would be a boring lead. And maybe something as basic as this could already work. Let's just see if it plays well with the other layers. Okay, so first of all, I just put the top lead a lot louder because it needed it. But do you already hear how this kind of second top lead just adds so much to this lead already? If I take it away, it just sounds a lot less full. And that was what I was going for. I would say that the mids of these leads are just a little bit more full. And yeah, that's just the goal of this little layer. I feel that we need one more hypersaw layer for this, and we're just going to use Viper again, because Viper has this nice unison, and we're going to use that unison to just make a little bit more stereo. But this hypersaw is also just going to have a lot more higher frequencies. So we're just going to put one of our two oscillators 1 octave up, so it just adds a little bit more of these higher frequencies to our lead. Basically, when I'm making a hypersaw layer in Viper, I'm just first gonna treat it kind of like a top lead. We just want to get the right sound out of these two oscillators, and get them to the right balance with the detuning and stuff. Then get the mixer, the balancing of the two oscillators right. And then we're gonna add these little details. And these details again are just a pitching envelope. We're adding that to, of course, both our oscillators because we're using both of them this time. And then I'm adding this LFO to just make some more movement going. But yeah, basically I'm just building the sound first. And after that, when I know that the character of this hypersaw is right, then at the end, I'm just gonna add these unison voices. So yeah, then I'm just sure that the sound is right, and then the stereo field will just come after that. So right now we got our layers for our top lead done, but something I just like to do, and I just thought it to myself, is whenever I'm making a sound, I'm more focusing on the sound that I'm creating, of course. And after I finished a bit of our sound, so our top lead section right now, I'm just gonna pull down these the gain on the mixers and just redo those gain knobs. So this time I'm focusing really on that every little bit of our synth is at the right spot. So if the top lead is just at the right volume, and if these hypersaws are just in the right spot as well. So yeah, now we had our little sound design stage first, and right now I'm just gonna balance this out and just make sure that everything's in the right spot. And a little trick that I like to use when I'm really setting the volume for these leads is by just taking away the top lead sometimes. The hypersaw is just something in the back. It will just support that top lead properly, but what's important is that that top lead stands out. It has its own space and really pushes through our mix of our 4 little layers over here. And yeah, just by muting them, you really hear if they're already pushing through your mix. So after I'm sure that I really put the volume to the right spot of each little layer, yeah, we're gonna route this to one bus. And in this bus, we're just gonna add an EQ and yeah, maybe just add a little bit of highs. And a part of that, we're just gonna use maybe OTT or FabFilter Saturn to just get the lead a little bit more powerful. And after that, we're just gonna work on the chords. And if you're unsure how to use OTT, I just like to turn down the depth to maybe 40-50% so that it's just a little bit less of these clicks at the beginning of each note, but it sounds like way too much highs right now. And it's actually making your lead sound thin. But if we turn these knobs to the left, we're only going to make that worse. But if we're going to put them to the right, we're going to boost the mids and the highs just a little bit. So that is getting balanced again. And you can really use OTT to just add a little bit of that punch to each note. And you can balance it out with these mids and the highs to just get it to the right balance again. So now the sound design of our top lead is done. We're gonna take the chords and just make a nice and wide sound for that. And the first plugin that comes to my mind when I want to make a basic body for my hypersaw chords is just Serum. Serum is just really nice to just throw open both oscillators and really don't think too much about it and just start detuning. This is just a nice and basic clean hypersaw layer that you can put in there, and it's just gonna make your basic bass for your hypersaw chords behind your top lead. And literally that's all. You also want to turn on your filter and maybe give it some extra highs with the resonance. So as you can see, it's just creating a little bit of a boost at the high end. But something that we can do as well, if you're maybe thinking this is too static, is of course adding some LFO, maybe some sine wave to the fine tune over here. So we're creating some extra pitch movement like we do with the LFO in Viper and Silent as well. And yeah, you don't really need to pay attention that those settings are to the same amount, but just keep them somewhere around the same amount and you'll be fine. Just take away the BPM so that you can really speed up this LFO and just create some extra movement in here. But apart of that, this is all I'm using this Serum for. And of course, we gotta make our chords follow our pitch automation as well. So that's the only thing we're gonna do. We're gonna put this to -12 and maybe to 12 for a riser, and just put this to the same automation clip. And when I'm working on my chord layers, I just tend to balance everything out as I go, because these top leads are right on its own, but maybe when we add a new chord layer, it's just gonna get things a little bit off balance. So whenever I'm making the chord layer, I'm just basically going in between the layers again to just balance everything properly. Now we just added these chords, and these chords are nice and they're adding some body to our mid voices. So they're not too high and not too low. But something I like to do for a new chord layer as well is just taking another one and we're basically putting these underneath here, and it has an extra lower layer of voices. So it's gonna be a little bit warmer, and that's just gonna create even more body for our lead. So to make these warmer chords, I really like to use Silent, and it's just basically because you can choose some more different waveforms, And if you don't have silent, I just suggest that you stick to a little bit less voices and less detune, because we're adding these lower voices and that brings just a little bit more of phasing problems if we're just gonna put too much detune on this. So I just like to maybe use one different waveform like a tri-saw and put it to like 4 voices and start detuning. Just nothing too aggressive for this little layer, because it needs to be tight for our low end. And something like this could already just be enough. It's just a little bit more warm, and that's what we're going for this little layer. Just create a really simple chord layer, and we're just gonna put this underneath our other chords, and you'll really notice how this is just adding so much body. And our lead right now sounds full already, but it's just not there yet. It has a nice top lead, it has some nice hypersaw, the layers work, but I just feel it's missing something. And we could do that with the chords, I think. We can maybe add a harmony, or we could maybe add some even higher chords that will just bring some more air to our lead or something. I just feel like we really need something higher. So yeah, let's just open another Viper for this one. I feel like using Viper. And yeah, just work on something that has a lot more higher frequencies in the lead. To be honest, this lead layer is really experimental for me. And I really felt the lead just needed something, but I just really didn't know what. I just knew it needed to be high. And well, I'm not even sure if this is gonna fit, but let's just put this to a mixer channel and see if we can really make this fit with the rest of our leads. I just really felt it needed some kind of more plucky, more higher chord type of sound or something. I'm just not sure. When I'm only playing this with the chords, I feel this is actually working. Let's just play this as a full lead and see if it's adding something. And right now I feel it's just down to balancing and maybe adding 1 or 2 layers. But I feel our chords are already quite big, and it's already just gonna sound bigger for sure when we add some reverb, of course. But I feel we just need to balance this a little bit, but I don't like to use OTT on my chords. We're just gonna use some Pro Q to just maybe give some extra highs and just make sure everything works together. And yeah, I'm thinking about adding a harmony to this layer. And before we try to add a harmony to the melody, let's just add a little bit of a bass line. So I'm just gonna take an init silent 1, and I just like to put this one to a sine wave and maybe this one to a saw wave, and we're only gonna put this to 1 oscillator. It's really important for our low end that it's just gonna be tight and no detune and nothing, so that we have a pure and solid bass for underneath our melody. We're gonna use a little bit of distortion to just create some more warmth and to just make it stand out a little bit more, but that's really all for this silent one. Now that I'm recording this, I'm just thinking to make this tutorial just in 2 parts, because in this tutorial we're already focusing so much on the sound design and the way I'm thinking when I'm creating these sounds and these layers, that I feel that I want to add a harmony and I want to add reverb, of course, but we're gonna do this in another tutorial for next week. Now I hope you like this and learned something from this, and hopefully I'll see you back soon again. Cheers!